The sun rose slowly over a landscape of tall grasses and scattered acacia trees, its first light spilling across the earth in a quiet, deliberate way. Here, 3,200,000 years ago, the world was both generous and merciless, offering life yet demanding constant vigilance. The air was thick with the musk of damp soil and the faint metallic tang of water that had pooled overnight in shallow depressions. This land was home to early humans, small, wiry figures whose movements were measured, their senses attuned to the pulse of the environment around them. They had begun to claim this place not through dominance, but through awareness, through an almost imperceptible negotiation with the dangers that lurked in every shadow, under every rock, and within every tree. Every step could bring discovery, nourishment, or death. Every moment was a negotiation between the fragile warmth of their bodies and the cold, waiting silence of the world. Among these early humans, a small group moved cautiously along a riverbank. Their skin was dark and glistening with dew, muscles taut from a lifetime of constant alertness. They had learned to read subtle signs, the snapped twig that suggested the passage of a predator, the slight ripple of the water hinting at a lurking crocodile, the shadows that shifted in ways unnatural to wind and sunlight. Survival demanded a rhythm in which instinct and intelligence intertwined, each movement measured, each decision a potential pivot between life and oblivion. Even at rest, the humans did not fully relax. Eyes swept, noses twitched, ears turned to catch sounds that might betray danger. Their existence was intimate with peril, and they carried that intimacy like a second skin. The river here was narrow, fringed with reeds and low, tangled brush. The water shimmered, reflective yet opaque, concealing shapes beneath its surface. It was a lifeline, but also a threshold, a place where the human world brushed against the predatory. From the undergrowth, a massive python coiled, its scales glinting in the dappled sunlight, a living shadow that merged seamlessly with the mottled earth. Its body was immense, each segment thick and powerful, a machine of raw force honed by evolutionary precision. Its head rose slightly, eyes fixed, tongue flicking as it tasted the air for the scent of movement. The snake was patient, almost imperceptible in its stillness, every breath measured, every twitch calibrated. It had learned that time was its ally, that the moment of strike needed no rush, only certainty. This predator had witnessed generations of prey, learned their rhythms, and waited for the instant where hesitation or curiosity might betray life itself. A lone human stepped closer to the river's edge, drawn by the promise of clean water. Every muscle in his body was tuned to caution, yet the mind often faltered in the presence of necessity. He crouched, hands reaching toward the liquid surface, unaware that beneath him the python's body shifted imperceptibly, aligning itself with the promise of death. The environment itself seemed to hold its breath. The rustle of leaves hushed, the gentle lapping of water paused, the distant cries of birds falling into an uneasy silence. In this moment, the world narrowed to two actors, one fragile and aware, the other vast and patient. The human felt a subtle pressure, an instinctive prickle that whispered danger, but did not yet articulate it. Fear and curiosity collided, both potent, both unrelenting, shaping a decision that might ripple across time, leaving marks invisible yet permanent. The first movement was deliberate, a tilt of the head, a shift in stance. Awareness flickered, sparking in the mind like the faintest ignition. The human did not see the full length of the predator, but felt its presence as a weight in the air, a pull beneath the skin. Evolution had sculpted these responses, embedded them into the marrow, into the sinews, into the quiet calculations of a body shaped by millennia of risk. The python, sensing this awareness, adjusted minutely. Its coils flexed, a silent negotiation with gravity and earth, aligning muscle and scale to potential action. Each was a master of patience, one learning, one calculating. Time stretched and contracted simultaneously. The next heartbeat carried the weight of centuries of adaptation, every choice reverberating in the quiet, lethal ballet of survival. Then the strike, not abrupt, not frenzied, but inevitable. The python's head lunged forward, mouth opening slightly, jaws calibrated to grip with precision. The human recoiled, instincts sharpening with terrifying clarity, limbs swinging in reactive geometry, every sinew pulling against fate. The air filled with the sound of movement, the whip of scales against grass, the thud of feet on earth, the subtle tearing of plant life as predator and prey intersected. In that fraction of time, everything became intensely physical. The heat of muscle, the friction of skin against earth, the pulse of blood that thrummed against the ribs. Fear was not abstract, it was a tangible, binding force, a signal and a command, shaping action and reaction with unerring precision. Decisions were stripped to their essence: move, survive, adapt, hesitate, and the environment would claim you. The struggle unfolded in a rhythm as old as life itself. The human twisted, leveraging weight and momentum, small hands seeking grip and leverage against the enormous body of the python. The snake coiled, applying pressure where possible, conserving strength for the moments that mattered most. Around them, the world remained strangely still, a witness to the raw calculus of survival. No other creatures intervened. The riverbank and brush became the stage for a silent, primal negotiation. Here, violence was not spectacle, but necessity, a dialogue without words, in which every gesture was a proposition and every reaction a counter. Each participant learned from the other, adapted, calculated. The struggle was not solely for breath, but for understanding, an understanding written in instinct and muscle, an understanding older than thought, deeper than memory. Minutes, or perhaps seconds, though perception had begun to blur, passed. The human found a small advantage, a slight slackening in the predator's coil, and exploited it with a precision born of desperation and intuition. The python recoiled, reconsidered, and withdrew incrementally, not defeated, but reassessing. In the aftermath, both creatures paused, their bodies heaving, muscles tensed and quivering. The river's surface rippled once more, disturbed by the passage of life, and the grasses settled back into quiet rhythm. Neither fully emerged unscathed, yet both persisted. Each had tested the other, each had mapped strengths and weaknesses, and each carried the encounter as an unspoken knowledge that would shape future actions. Survival was not mere endurance, it was a negotiation, a pattern repeated across countless generations, each iteration leaving its imprint in the flesh, in the mind, in the lineage of those who endured. The human returned to his group, slower now, carrying the faint bruises of collision and exertion, but alive. Around him, companions had watched in suspended understanding, eyes reflecting caution, curiosity, and relief. The group moved together, sharing silent communication, a subtle choreography of motion and attention. Each step, each glance, each measured motion was a reinforcement of learned caution. Their collective experience absorbed the encounter, folding it into the web of survival strategies, feeding both immediate decisions and long-term adaptation. The landscape continued, indifferent, its rhythms ancient and immutable, yet shaped momentarily by the agency of fragile life. As the sun climbed higher, shadows shortened, revealing the terrain in stark contrast. The python had retreated to denser cover, a slow, deliberate withdrawal into obscurity. Its body became one with the earth again, hidden, patient, and waiting. The encounter, though brief in linear time, would echo across generations. The human and those like him had touched the edge of mortality and returned, bearing knowledge deeper than words. It was an intimacy with death, a recognition of limits and possibilities, a silent affirmation that life persisted through attentiveness, adaptation, and the quiet courage of persistence. Each small decision, each measured response became part of a continuum of experience that stretched far beyond individual existence, shaping the subtle architecture of human evolution itself. Through the afternoon, the river hummed with life. Fish darting beneath ripples, insects rising in iridescent spirals, birds shifting between reeds. The humans moved along its banks with renewed awareness, alert but unafraid, their motions integrating lessons learned in the heat of confrontation. They carried water, sharpened stones, and the residue of instinct, all intertwined in a subtle choreography of survival. Each element of the landscape, the trees, the river, the wind, the sun, was both opportunity and threat, a canvas for the exercise of observation and decision. The world remained indifferent, yet alive in ways perceptible only to those attuned to its intricate balance. By evening, the group had established a temporary shelter within a grove of trees. They clustered together, not for warmth alone, but for shared vigilance, a network of sensory perception that extended beyond the individual. Even as shadows lengthened, tension eased incrementally, the immediate threat of the python receding but leaving a lingering imprint. Muscles relaxed, yet the mind remained alert, eyes scanning, ears attuned. Sleep would be cautious, punctuated by intermittent shifts, half-dreams intertwined with the residue of fear and awareness. Life in this era was neither tranquil nor brutal. It existed in a continuum, shaped by the measured responses of creatures both vulnerable and capable, each encounter folding into the fabric of evolutionary memory. Night deepened. The moon, pale and distant, cast faint light over the terrain. Stars scattered across the sky, indifferent witnesses to the small dramas unfolding beneath them. The humans rested, yet even in repose, the lessons of the day persisted. The python, invisible now, coiled in hidden shadows, remained a presence, a reminder of the subtle threat that defined much of their existence. In the quiet, one could discern the pulse of the world itself, the slow, relentless beat of life seeking continuation, the persistent negotiation of survival that had shaped countless generations before and would shape countless more after. There was no triumph in this awareness, no relief beyond the immediate, only existence, fragile, precious, and ancient, moving inexorably forward. Dawn approached again, indistinct at first, a pale gradient over the horizon. The group stirred, muscles tense, senses alert. Memory of the previous encounter lingered like a shadow beneath the skin, informing posture, movement, and attention. In this landscape, learning was as vital as the air they breathed, each lesson a potential determinant between life and oblivion. The human mind, small yet remarkably adaptive, integrated the encounter into the architecture of experience. Decisions now carried echoes of the python, the riverbank, the subtle signals that had made life possible. Each choice became an extension of that intimate understanding, woven seamlessly into the continuum of daily survival. The cycle of the environment persisted, timeless yet ephemeral in each individual's experience. The grasses swayed with wind, water rippled in channels carved over centuries, and life, both predator and prey, moved according to imperceptible rules that had governed existence long before humans emerged. The python slithered, silent and deliberate through the undergrowth, never losing its patience. The humans moved with purpose, careful and aware, embedding each observation into instincts, tools, and strategies. The interplay between these species, between mind and muscle, between alertness and ambush, carried profound implications, shaping behaviors that would echo through evolutionary history. Here, survival was negotiation, experience, and adaptation intertwined, forming the quiet bedrock of human development. Time folded into itself. Encounters passed, some unnoticed, some transformative. The humans learned to read not just immediate threats, but the patterns of the environment, the behavior of predators, the shifts in prey, the subtle markers of opportunity. Each survival was a thread in a broader tapestry, weaving together observation, reaction, and consequence. The python, patient and precise, became both adversary and teacher, demonstrating the limits of human speed, strength, and perception. The moments when life hung in fragile balance instilled knowledge deeper than observation, an understanding encoded in instinct and reinforced through repetition. The fabric of prehistory was stitched through countless interactions like these, small yet pivotal, shaping cognitive and physical evolution across generations. In the quiet hours before sunrise, the landscape held its breath once more. Life continued in its ancient rhythm, unseen and persistent, driven by forces older than human thought. The humans, asleep or restless, carried within them the memory of confrontation, a delicate layering of instinct, learning, and adaptation. The python waited, unhurried, unchanging, yet fully aware of opportunity and constraint. The world was neither forgiving nor cruel. It simply existed, and life, delicate and determined, found ways to persist within its parameters. The encounter at the riverbank, brief yet profound, became part of a lineage of decisions, shaping behaviors, influencing risk, and embedding awareness deep within the evolutionary fabric. As the first light of a new day touched the river and grasses, a stillness settled over the terrain. The humans rose, cautious yet deliberate, carrying knowledge invisible to the eye, embedded in posture and movement. The python, indistinct and coiled, remained an ever-present force, a quiet reminder of the delicate balance between curiosity and caution, between necessity and threat. Across the ages, the echo of such encounters would ripple, informing survival strategies, shaping behaviors, and influencing the evolutionary path of those who persisted. The land remained unchanged, indifferent, yet alive, bearing witness to the persistent negotiation between life and environment, a negotiation older than memory, as inevitable as the turning of the earth itself.